Somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudville. Mighty Casey has stopped!
Darling, I want to say to you, strike this one out.
He got it! A perfect game! It was done by the king! Hey, you! How you like them apples? Took away a game-tying home run for Manny Ramirez.
That's mine, big fellas.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for visiting us this evening.
Gotcha. I lived in Bayswater, but I had a friend who lived right next to King's Cross that we used to go visit every now and then. But
Bayswater is the most American place you could have said that you lived. I was like,
I'm not surprised. My God, it really. I think that's why it felt comfortable. I did have to walk through, Queensway and through Kensington or by Kensington to get to my school, which was nice. Into South Kensington.
Very swagged out museum.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, we have to.
I know.
Let
Yeah.
him do his thing. Let him do it.
All right, we'll save it.
I'm still recording. We can honestly start with that if we want to.
Oh, actually, that works.
Welcome back, everybody. It's Mudville. It's episode number 30. That's a round number.
It's a special.
Yeah. Brody isn't here with me today in person. He is back at home in Katona, so that explains some of the Zoom audio. But also joining us today is the official London correspondent, Miss Molly Thomas. Molly, how are you today?
Hello, I'm doing very, very well. I'm very sick, as we've discussed, but I'm pretending that I'm good.
You're a trooper for sticking with us despite it. We got a couple of great championship series, both in the AL and in the NL. As we said earlier in the week, the Phillies and the Rangers were both up 2-0. Both of those series went back to 2-2 ties. The Astros took all 3 games in Texas, and then last night the Phillies were able to take that last game in Arizona. Molly is famously a fan of the Philadelphia Phillies, so I was watching that game last night. I was like, 90% of the vibes for this podcast are going to be determined by how this game goes. So I was very happy to see that the Phillies actually took that one. Zach Wheeler shoved last night. He's turning into a true playoff hero. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper each taking Zach Gallen deep. Molly, how are you feeling about the Phils right now?
We're feeling good. They're treating you like a good boyfriend would treat you. They're 6-1, which is, and they're winning. They're like hitting the ball, and like everyone loves defense, right? But the main point is you want to see guys hit like a ball very, very far, and they did that. And obviously, like everyone was still incredibly anxious, unless it's like a 15-0 lead. Everyone's like, we're gonna lose it. We're gonna lose it. But fingers crossed, 2 more games. Hopefully, only 1 more game, but 2 more games to just like tie this up, and then have to battle the forces of evil, aka the American League. The worst vibes. The worst vibes currently.
The American League has had the worst possible vibes in the playoffs, I feel like, for like 5 or 6 years now. Like, I feel like that's a theory that we've both been kind of like independently working on now for a while.
Yeah, that was fun. Man, the Phillies are a good time. They have like players that you want to root for. They're all likable. They're, like the long hair and the beards thing going on. Like they look unified. It's kind of fun.
I mean,
they like get really drunk with each other. You don't want to know. You don't want to know where they were on January 6th, but other than that, they're really good guys. Like they're really good guys.
I think you're right.
I think I'm still rooting for it to be a Phillies-Rangers World Series, just so that the only team that didn't host a Pride Night back in June has to face the team with the best, like, homoerotic vibes in the entire league. Like, I don't know. I feel like if they were in the series, the Phillies would just all start, like, making out with each other, and then they would like, sweep the series.
They all look like they have like a rock star thing going on from the 80s where it's like not really clear like what's going on with them. And
the crazy thing is like the Rangers are the Creed team, right? Like they've got a different vibe. It's really like the rock star. But I actually like
they will tell you where they were on January 6th. The Phillies you could only see.
Yeah. as someone who was raised, like, my family are like Irish Catholic,
Yeah.
my most Protestant trait is that, like, I'm rooting for a team that's like Bryson, Kyle, Jake. What the hell are we doing here? Like,
Yeah.
it's
Oh,
like
God.
white guy, like,
It
final,
really
like,
is.
Trey, yeah.
Like Bryson and I'm dating a girl named Bryce also, which is she's been having fun with that. But yeah, Bryson and Bryce is really quite the duo for these guys. And you also have Alec, Kyle, as you
and
said.
Brandon.
Wow.
And Brandon.
Let's go, Brandon.
JT. Like, there's a lot of really good ones.
Go to a like frat party and they're gonna tell you to name
Phillies.
10 brothers to get in. Just name the Phillies starting lineup. Just go Trey, Bryce, Bryson, Alec,
Trey.
JT. That's probably That's probably brothers from their frat.
Oh
You'll probably
my
get
God.
in.
Wow, that's so true. Man.
That could also kind of work though for Texas.
Nick also
Like you go in there, they're like, what are our names?
Josh,
Marcus,
Jonah,
Corey,
Marcus.
Josh, Evan. I don't know. This is a very frat teams left.
Yeah.
I think the issue is just like a lot of these guys were born in like the late 90s, early 2000s. And so like everyone's like, we're going to
I
like,
think-
10
I
years,
think
it's gonna be, like Mason and like,
Man.
All of the players are now like younger than us. All of their names are like the same as a bunch of TikTok influencers now. It's crazy.
Hard
yeah.
to
I
say
was
that.
hanging out with some 22-year-olds the other night and they were like talking about like how hot Adley Rutschman is. And I was like, I think he's a little young. And they're like, oh, he's older than us. And I was like, oh, yeah.
How old is that, actually?
Adley, I think, is 24, I believe. He's 25 now, I think. He's older than Juan Soto, though, which is incredibly jarring.
That is crazy. February 6th, 1998. So there you go.
We were
25.
talking last week about the whole like Wander Franco thing, about how he's gone and how we were making a passing reference and we were saying how their future shortstops, Junior
Yeah.
Caminero, Carson Williams, I said keep it 18 plus, and then I immediately felt, well, I could probably say 21, and then I was like, wait a minute, those guys themselves are 20. That's
They're
so
still
weird
young.
to think about. Like there are
Yeah.
guys coming into the league that are like 6 years younger than us now, and that freaks me out. I don't know.
I mean, Juan Soto showed up at 18, didn't he? Or 19?
Yeah, 19. Yeah, he's.
19.
I don't think there's been an
drink after they won the
18-year-old.
World Series.
I was going to say, he couldn't, like, because then he got then traded like San Diego, right? Yeah.
They won in
He went
2019.
international.
Yeah,
Yeah.
He couldn't drink. You know, Maddie B. Rapt,
of course.
kid.
Yeah.
Number one, his birthday is January 6th. Number two, he's like now like grown and has a thigh tattoo. And I saw it on my timeline and it like really fucked me up for like one calendar week.
Do you know like Lights Camera Jackson?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the same way where I feel like he has the like, I don't know, Martin Short and Clifford type thing, but like also he kept growing now for another 10 years. So he's like my age now. I think Lights Camera Jackson is like 25, but
Matty
like, if
B.
you
Rapp
look at
is
him,
20.
he looks like he's 14.
Wait, Lights, Camera, Jackson?
Yeah, look up Lights Camera Jackson. For those if anybody's listening who doesn't know, Lights Camera Jackson was a kid film critic. I think in the like Syracuse area. Our friend
At the
Seamus,
age
like
of 7.5.
oh god, that's so messed
He's our
up.
age.
Yeah,
He's 25.
yeah. But our friend Seamus was like aware of this Lights Camera Jackson kid when he was like a young like local TV type phenomenon. He would give like kid reviews where he would basically be like, "This movie is too confusing," and then
Like, Cars is great.
yeah, I mean, probably it was probably like that exact era. He probably gave a review for Cars, but it's like, that was his prime. So like those were his 15 minutes of fame. You get the sense that either like
Right.
he or like his parents tried to like stunt his growth to an extent to like keep him in that like moment where he could like be where, like I don't know,
Like our Judy Garland.
yeah.
The modern Judy Garland.
Top 10 worst decisions in film history. Number 11, MGM gets Judy Garland hooked on pills. Number 10, Lights Camera Jackson debuts on Syracuse TV at age 8. He's like a grown
An
man
episode about
child kind of.
stars. That'd
Yeah.
be really
Yeah.
That'd be kind of sad, honestly.
It would be really sad, but it would also be kind of fun. Not all of them turn out terribly.
Yeah, no, a few of them did well. I think like Haley Joel Osment is probably a pretty like regular guy now. I don't know.
Seems like a normal guy. He was in Kingdom Hearts too.
Tolkien's are good.
Macaulay Culkin.
Super good.
Yeah, I think he was not.
He went
Great.
through it for
Then
a
he-
while. He got his life together. I saw a thing the other day. Macaulay Culkin was saying, like, every time he's, like, on a date, somebody wants to watch Home Alone with Macaulay Culkin.
That sounds like the worst hell imaginable.
It does. It sounds like Groundhog Day, but for a movie you were in as a kid. Is like, that's a nightmare. Moving on, we actually had a number of films that we wanted to talk about today. Molly just recently attended these at the London Film Festival. Most of these I have not yet been able to see. They have not gotten a wide release yet in the States, with the exception of Martin Scorsese's Killers of the Flower Moon, which I just saw on Thursday. We'll try to be vague about it. I do just want to go through some of these with you and see like what you thought about these. You're the only guest we've had that has seen these yet. So starting with Jeff Nichols' The Bike Riders. I don't really have a ton of information about that movie, honestly.
It's like it's a Jude Roth movie. It's like set in like the 60s and 70s, like a Chicago like murder bike gang. It's just like it's guys being dudes. I like left to be like everyone's gonna want like the Austin Butler flow in that movie because his hair looks majestic, but it's like Tom Hardy doing accent work, which is incredible. I thought like the first half was better than the second half, to be honest, and I think like every critic has said the same, but it's like very, very fun. And Jodie Comer is really good in it. She like is kind of the narrator and like the like main thing tying it together, and she's in her bag. She's so funny in it.
Hell yeah.
And I in general am like a person who's like, oh, anyone can like act. Like being funny is really hard. So like I think she did a really good job.
I like Jodie Comer. I mean, she impressed me so much in The Last Duel. I don't know if I've actually seen her in anything other than that. Austin Butler, too, you mentioned his hair. I certainly had that experience with Elvis. I left the theater. I was like, shit, I got to go to the barber shop. Brody, are you on mute?
I am. Bryce needed something from my room. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Trying to figure it out. I'm listening, though. This movie does look like it has a really good cast.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about it. What's like the chemistry like between Austin Butler and Tom Hardy? That's like a duo that I think is exciting.
Okay, well, it's without spoiling it, it's very Phil locker room, if you know what I mean.
Okay.
Like the Texas Rangers would not be a fan of what's going on. There's like certain shots where I'm like, oh, okay, we're like making it potentially text.
Tom Hardy was the one who said like, I'm an actor, of course I've had gay sex.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Which, there you go. Don't tell the Rangers.
Does he bring that energy into this movie?
Very much so, in like
Nice.
a very unexpected way, where it's like it's kind of like it's a meditation on masculinity, obviously, but like I think it does like interesting things. But like it's based on the book, and like Mike Feist plays the guy whose book it is.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
He's like weirdly like weaselly and cool, and has like really bad facial hair in it. So I'm like, it's incredible, it's really rules. But there's a bunch of like character actors who like I really like. The moment when I realized the guy from Brooklyn, one of my favorite movies of all time, who plays her Italian husband, is in it, I'm like, oh, this movie's like the slam dunk. This movie was made for me. I was like punching the air.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I love Norman Reedus. He like there's a show that he has that's like all about motorcycles but I was like scrolling through and I was like, man, that's weird. It's called Norman Reedus's Ride. And I don't know why I started watching it, but I watched one episode about New York and I was like, actually, it was like really good. Like it was like surprisingly good. He's like an interesting guy. And it was like, he did like all of the, like stuff in a New York travel doc that you wouldn't normally see. Like he went to Coney Island and like met the people who like make the pop art for it and like the artist who like lives there and like, it was really cool. Like he went to what's the name of the film? Like Mario Batali, I don't know, the chef guy, like the TV chef, and he like
Mario
went around
Batali.
That's it. Anyway, he went around and ate pizza with him and like all these places and heard stories about like old New York and stuff. It was cool. But anyway, what I was gonna ask is this movie at all similar to Wild Hogs? Because it kind of looks like a similar vibe.
I have no idea what Wild Hogs is.
I don't either,
I'm
actually,
a
Brody. You're all
girl,
alone.
So I don't know what they're talking about.
Man, that's for the best, to be honest. That was like the old man motorcycle movie. That was like John Travolta like being bald and wait, was Kevin James in that movie?
Oh my
I was
god.
mostly kidding, but wait, hold on. Let me
The
see who's in
meme.
that. John Travolta, Martin Lawrence, Tim Allen, Ray Liotta, William H. Macy, and like Marissa Tomei. Like,
Dream
all-
blunt rotation.
Oh yeah.
Molly, had you seen a Jeff Nichols film prior to this one? I'm looking at his movies now, and I have not seen any of them myself. It looks like the big ones are Take Shelter and Mud with Matthew McConaughey from 2012.
Yeah, well, I have seen Take Shelter, which is, I think, like a Michael Shannon.
Yes, correct.
Michael Shannon's in this. Basically, everyone's like, if you name a guy, it's like a Name Some Guys movie. And that's like a really good movie. He doesn't make a ton of movies, but he like introduced the film, and he's like, yeah, I just like met Austin Butler, and I thought he was like really handsome, and I thought like I was very obsessed with him, so I wanted to like put him in this movie. And I was like, yeah, you can tell like the movie's like very I don't know, like it shoots stuff in a really interesting way, and like the first half especially is like super like propulsive, exciting. Like people are like, oh, I don't know what they're gonna do in the second half of this movie, and then I'm like, oh, they didn't actually do that much stuff, but it's just like a very cool movie, and like he seems like a cool guy. The period Chicago accents are so, you can tell that all the accents have so much fun doing them, which is I love accent love. I'm like
Austin Butler needs to be careful, or he's just gonna always be like the accent guy. Like he's never gonna get a role where he just gets to talk, talk as he would. Like he's always gonna have to have some kind of inflection.
I think I want to save the Scorsese for the end, so why don't we move on to Sofia Coppola's Priscilla? This is one that I was... Actually, to mention Elvis again, the Baz Luhrmann movie, like I remember when that one was coming out, I didn't know a ton about the Elvis-Priscilla relationship, so that was actually the time when I learned that she was like 13, 14 years old when they met, and I was curious if like Baz Luhrmann was going to lean into an angle where he just makes the viewer like super uncomfortable like watching that. Like if he like cast an actual like young girl in that role or something, it would just like condemn like Elvis's legacy or whatever. I don't know. I was very curious how he was going to handle that. It didn't go down that route really at all. It kind of seemed to me like maybe Sofia Coppola was going to make the movie that I was possibly curious if Elvis was going to be like, and the trailer also kind of gave that sort of energy to me. So what was Priscilla like for you? Like how would you compare that to the depiction of Elvis, and how did you feel that Sofia Coppola handled this material?
Yeah, well, it's actually really funny because I think when the trailer first came out, people were like, oh, it's definitely gonna like glamorize this relationship and like be very surface level. But there's almost multiple times in the movie where a character turns to camera and is like, and this is bad. Like it's in like a actually very like deft like storytelling way where it's like it's kind of that joke about people being like reading the book about the rise and fall of the Nazis being like, I like shaking your head so you don't agree. You like Sophia's like doing that where it's very much like it's very unvarnished about like her being very young. It's based on Priscilla's memoir. Priscilla was an executive producer. Kaylee Spaney, who plays Priscilla in it, had like met with Priscilla. She introduced the film, and honestly, like throughout the film, you get a real sense they like really loved and respected her. It was actually crazy because I saw Priscilla the day after I saw Kills the Flower Moon, which we'll touch on, and both those films I feel like are like filled with so much love for their subject, where you're like, oh, I really feel like the filmmaker like cares about this person and has put so much care into how they're depicting them. And like I was just thought of it, I was like, I'm so interested in Priscilla. I want to read like 1,000 more things about that. I'm gonna probably read her memoir. And it does a really good job, I think, of like a very Sofia Coppola idea of like showing loneliness and a sense of isolation and a sense of, your identity potentially fracturing in a weird way. So like I think it's a really like I like walked out of like potentially my favorite Sofia movie of all time. I was
Whoa.
like very much like I loved it basically.
That's
But I
awesome.
was not sure.
That is actually something else that I was very curious about, was Priscilla Presley's like involvement in both this movie and again with Baz Luhrmann's Elvis. Like, I didn't know how the filmmakers would be able to handle subject matter that they may handle differently, you know, were any of the subjects not actually involved and were they actually treating it like from a third party's point of view. They didn't necessarily have that creative luxury. So I was curious about like how Priscilla's take on her own life and how she wanted to see herself depicted in these films impacted how Sofia Coppola was able to access like these stories. Do you feel like that relationship was done respectfully both to Priscilla Presley's life and also to the subject matter at hand to the point where it was able to be depicted responsibly?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think obviously what you're getting is very much that it's based on her memoir. I was reading a little bit about her memoir and in terms of the pacing, a lot of the film is when she's pretty young. Like the majority of the film is pre them getting married, which I didn't realize was such an extended period of like she's moved to the US, she's living in his house and going to school, which is a strange dynamic already in that. I think the fact that I knew it was based on a memoir and the fact there were a bunch of weird little details that made it ring really true, made it feel like, Sophia was able to get at the real story here. I think it's clear, if you get a sense both of why she was enchanted by him and obsessed with him and in love with him, and also why that was not a model for a relationship as a whole. And really, like, I actually haven't seen Elvis. I did not have a TV for a very long time. So I
Vibes.
only ever saw yeah, I only ever saw movies in theaters, and I missed that one. And I now want to watch it because Baz Luhrmann, famously Australian, gotta support my guy. But Jacob Elordi, who's in it, like, is literally from the same city in Australia I'm from.
Oh, that's
went
cool.
to school with my cousin.
Whoa,
And
I
he's
didn't know
a
that.
great guy.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Man.
And he's good in it. Like, I think he's so tall, and Kaylee Spain, who plays Priscilla, is such
really
a little
tall.
lady. So it's like the juxtaposition's really good, and I think you're able to kind of tell the story of like his stature versus her. So there's like early scenes in Germany when he's stationed there and she's stationed there with her family, and she's literally like a 13-year-old going to parties at like the most famous guy on earth house. Like it's crazy.
If you just like, I mean, I'm looking at just some of the photos on IMDb of the film, and you can just see like the juxtaposition in like the characters. Just like the photo of them at their wedding. There's a photo of him like it looks like in an interview, and then she looks like a child, and he's like this megastar looking with like the blue suit, the cane, the giant like the Elvis fit.
That was literally going to be my last question, was like, what was the height difference like?
It's interesting. It's a good choice, like, for this relationship. Sorry, go on though.
No, yeah, it's crazy, and I think it is true to life. Like, I think she was like a small lady, and she's certainly, like Kaylee Spain, I've seen in the TV show that she was in that she's really good in. I now can't think of the name of.
Let me find
it. Maybe, I'm not sure, but she's a really good actress. This is different to anything I've ever seen her do. But one of the things that
the Mayor of Easttown.
I haven't actually seen that. I did not know she was in that.
Me neither.
She's good. She's doing a bunch of different things.
There you go. Devs or the First Lady. Looks like.
Yeah, Deb. She's so good in Deb, and it's like a very different performance. And when she's entering the film, was talking about growing up in the South and the idea of Elvis and Priscilla being such icons in her life. And she did, like, it's such a like lovely performance. Like, you get like a really, like, you get such a warm sense of Priscilla. Like, I literally was like, I was outside and I was like, I'm like gonna do a bunch of research and like a lot of people failed her, like her parents, and like his dad comes across crazy in that. I'm not sure if that's a big thing in Elvis, but you really don't like his dad.
In Elvis, I feel like his dad is just kind of depicted as like an idiot who gets like walked all over by the Tom Hanks like German cartoon character. Like it's crazy. But also, have you guys seen Bad Times at the El Royale? Kaylee Spaney's in that, and she's pretty good in that one too.
He was?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know. That was a really good movie.
I got to watch it again. I mean, we've seen it. It's been like 5 years since it came out, but I remember that was a lot of fun when we saw that in theaters. Moving on, Foe, directed by Garth Davis, starring Saoirse Ronan and Paul Mescal. I haven't been hearing the best things about this movie, but maybe the critics are wrong. Molly, what'd you think of this one?
The critics are right. It's bad.
Oh boy, okay.
But like it's also just so weirdly directed. The guy who made it made Lion, which is like a very confidently made film. The film with like Dev Patel. It's like it got nominated for Oscars. It's like a very like beautiful, nice, like quite a straightforward story.
Oh, he did Mary Magdalene too, the one with Joaquin and Rooney Mara that I thought.
He did?
Like I didn't see that. I just like remembered like the idea of it being so strange.
Yeah, I think. Well, sir, it's the thing that I would compare this to is, I'm thinking of ending things.
Yes.
Charlie Kaufman movie.
Yeah.
You know how that's like based on a book, but in the most like the book is just taking those vibes, and the same thing with like I think with Alex Garland's adaptation of Annihilation, similar like took the book and just kind of vibed off it.
I never realized that was a book too. Annihilation.
Yeah. It's such a good book. It's Jeff Band who made. There's a whole like trilogy, I think.
Yeah.
And they're really good.
I enjoyed the movie. It wasn't. I don't think it was amazing, but it was good. Same with Cars.
Yeah.
Same with Cars.
Yeah. I was thinking about Cars. The book that Cars is based on is so good. Have you read it?
Cars.
Yeah.
Man, I genuinely that was so like. I was like, am I dumb? Like,
No, yeah, you said that like you said that so genuinely. I was like, she's definitely kidding, but that's a really well delivered joke. We'll have you back on for our Cars Annihilation double feature episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. About adapted work.
Absolutely. Moving forward from there, though, Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things, Emma Stone. What'd you think?
Emma's in her fucking bag.
Fuck yeah.
He's so good in it. One thing I would say is like not enough Willem Dafoe. He's in like the starting bit and he's so good and he's doing like a Scottish accent. And the book it's based on is Scottish, actually.
Oh, interesting.
And I think they changed a bunch of things. Like I think that's a nod to it. And he's so good and such like an interesting presence. So when it's mostly just Emma off on like little journeys with mainly like Mark Ruffalo and then later a bunch of other actors in like different parts of Europe, you kind of suffer a little bit from him not being around. But it's a really good movie. The craziest thing about it though is like the ending. I was like, oh, this is the ending of the movie, and then it's not the ending of the movie. And then like someone turns up and like does a weird like final wrinkle, which I wasn't sure. Like I ended up being like 4.5 times. So I'm like, I think that last bit like kind of screws it out of being like perfect.
Ooh, okay.
Really interesting. Like I really liked it a lot, and
just looking at the
very
trailer
cool.
right now, the stylization on this is unbelievable, isn't it? Like
it's crazy.
This looks like just enrapturing.
Brody, have you seen any
away.
Yorgos Lanthimos' previous movies? Did you watch Killing of a Sacred Deer with us?
No, but I have seen. You know what's funny? I was about to say this looks like The Favorite. And then I remember that he made The Favorite.
Yeah.
So, like, that's, I have seen The Favorite. That's a great movie. And that's like the camera work is so similar. Like the low shots,
he shoots with those
very
like
uncomfortable
fisheye
feeling.
lenses. Yeah.
Yeah.
This is like a time at the pavilion. Like it's set in like a weird like kind of Fantasyland version of London, which is really interesting for me. So I'm like, oh, I recognize like what that skyline is meant to be.
Right.
It's kind of based on Frankenstein, which the book is based on as a riff of, but then it goes to like Lisbon and a bunch of other places. But the way that it's looked is just like unlike anything else.
Right.
It's that weird warping in normal scenes. It like mixes black and white and then color. It's just like the costuming is crazy. Like everything Emma Stone wears in it is crazy. There's a bunch of weird like mutant animals in it. It's so interesting. Like there's something you would watch like 20 times. Like The Favorite is probably his most like it has like interesting visual things, but what's happening in the story kind of makes like it's kind of linear sense. This is
Right.
like, kind of a simple story where it's kind of about her discovering who she is and stuff. But visually, it's like dialed up to a billion. I should say The Favorite is one of my favorite movie watching experiences of all time, which is I saw it at the ArcLight in LA, and I like sat down. I like heard a laugh behind me in a voice I recognized. I turned around, and it was Natalie Portman.
Whoa.
And so I like watched The Favorite with Natalie Portman in front of me, and then like Zoe Kravitz and
He
her
talked during the
Zen.
movie.
She didn't. She literally just like giggled at all the like the funny parts.
Yeah.
And was like with a friend. And yeah,
Right.
and then like Zoe Kravitz and her then boyfriend, later husband, now ex-husband, they were like two rows ahead. They made out through most of the movie.
Oh my god. That I see that from
That's awesome.
rabbits in general. That's like on brand for the family. But,
Celebrity
man,
gossip.
that's really
You get it
cool.
here first on Mudville.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, we're the hot spot for all the
My understanding of Poor Things is Emma Stone's character essentially has the brain of her own baby like put into her, and like that concept sounds so crazy, especially in a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. In your own opinion, does it do that concept justice? Did you leave satisfied?
Like I think like she's giving a really interesting performance. I was actually just this morning listening to the Blank Check episode about Pure Escape of Benjamin Button, which is kind of a similar idea of like a guy who's an old man in a baby body or a baby in an old man body. The movie.
Yeah, a baby who's like born as an old man, and then as he ages, he gets like progressively younger.
Yeah.
Not one of my favorite
yeah.
Finchers, to be honest, but it's okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's also
but
man.
in it, the funny thing is like one of the major takeaways that you get from her being young, you watch her kind of grow into herself and grow up is there's just a very extended like one of the major themes I think is just like horniness. Like there's a lot of because it's a Yorgos movie, so there's just a lot of weird, very nasty, ugly horniness, which like takes the like maybe 30 minutes in and then kind of doesn't stop for at least an hour. So like
I remember thinking that about like The Favorite too. And then I was in that movie I was shocked it was going where like I don't know, I was 20 at the time, so my 20-year-old brain was like, is that what's going on here? And then I was like, no. And then it was. I was like, oh, okay.
I would just say don't watch this with your parents. I would just say that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
It
probably
also,
a good
like,
recommendation.
I don't know if this doesn't like this is not I don't think this is the audience for this, but it kind of looks like BioShock. Like have you like ever seen like the style of a BioShock game?
Right over my head.
Like, okay.
I'm a
It's
gal.
very-
I don't know what the hell you're saying.
like yeah at least I read the room right. At least it wasn't the right crowd for it, but if you look up like BioShock Infinite, it's like a game from I don't know like 15 years ago now, very steampunky and colorful and like alternate reality, like you know city in the clouds type deal. Like it's very kind of
It's
like
definitely
wonder like sense of wonder, which has like a really nasty underside in that game specifically. But yeah, that kind of like interesting alternate way to look at something. Anyway,
It's interesting to me, just kind of this like shift in Yorgos Lanthimos's filmography, where like I don't know, I think about like The Lobster or Killing of a Sacred Deer, and I feel like those are both such like sexless, cold type movies that now like we're talking about like The Favorite, and Molly, you're talking about how his new movie is like super horny. Like that feels like a different type of, I don't know, that feels like something he wasn't interested in like for so long. Like and I don't know, maybe I'm like misremembering some stuff about these movies, but like The Lobster, like in particular, like that was a movie where like it's about dating, like quote unquote, but in this very like fucked up futuristic like sci-fi version of that. And then Killing of a Sacred Deer, there's like some very like fucked up like incestuous stuff in that movie from what I can remember. So I don't know, to go from that to like the favorite, which was of course like a love triangle lesbian English royalty movie, which was fucking sick, and now going to this, like that feels like a big shift in his filmography to me. I don't know, that's just
Yeah. The Lobster is like pretty, like the scenes that depict anything is like very anti-sex. It's very like, well, this is like, but it's also just like that movie is much more like elegant and less like interested in the grotesque than this movie. I think part of that is just like maybe it's inspired by like what he read in text. Like clearly, like the Frankenstein myth, broadly speaking, is such a like a, it's all about like the grotesque, and it's like kind of Victorian era. So there's the weird like that like weird steampunky thing of like you have like weird balloons in the sky, but you also have like this idea of like people being shunned and like men in dark coats and like back alleys and like all sorts of grimy stuff happening under the surface of like very frilly outfits. But I'd be interested to see like what he does next, because like it's like a much more fantastical, like magical, weird thing than like like a family drama or like
they should have given him Wonka.
They actually should have. That would be so cool. That's the only way I would be excited for Wonka, is if they gave it to Yorgos.
That like just from the trailer alone for Poor Thing, I can already tell that would have been better.
I get the sense too that he like really wants to be Stanley Kubrick, and I feel like we need more directors that really want to be Stanley Kubrick. Moving forward from there, let's talk about your favorite movie from the festival, Richard Linklater's Hitman, starring Glenn Powell. What'd you think of that?
What a picture! What a picture! It's so good. As I said, points out like it's the kind of movie where everyone was laughing the whole time. Spontaneous rounds of applause. Like Glenn Powell is like I thought he was a good actor because I've seen him in Everybody Wants Some, which we talked about briefly. Like I think he's a good actor, but like he's like it's a movie star performance. It's such a good performance. There's like so much charisma and like everything he's doing. The main female lead is amazing. I hadn't actually seen her and stuff, and I like looked up her filmography. She's been in other good stuff, but it's such a like funny, like smart movie. I just like laughed out loud multiple times, including like the final credits, because it's based on a real life guy. So like they were doing the final credits, they were talking about the real life guy. Like there's like a genuine laugh line at like a throwaway joke in the credits, which I think is such a good sign. It's just like a movie that has like it's the kind of movie where I would be like, they just don't make movies like this anymore. Like it's like that kind of almost like kind of B movie style of like The Nice Guys and like Kiss Kiss Bang Bang, which are like some of my like, those are like canonical Molly movies where they're a little bit grimy and like very funny, and like everyone in it is like firing on all cylinders, extremely funny, extremely charismatic. There's cool stuff and like zips along. And I think it's like a shame that I think it's been bought by Netflix and it's just getting released on Netflix. It's the perfect like go to a movie theater and like laugh with everyone else kind of.
That's such a tragedy that it went to Netflix. Like, I don't know, like everything that I had heard about like people who had seen those at screenings, and now from what you're saying, like I bet that they probably do like a very like limited theatrical release, so I'll probably get to see it in a theater, but it probably like won't be a very big crowd because people will be like, oh, I can just go see this on Netflix. And I really hate that. Like that makes me very sad to think about. But are you like a big Linklater fan? Like, did this give you a new sense of appreciation for him, or is this like just another Richard Linklater classic?
I think it did give me a new sense of appreciation just because it feels, this will sound like an insult, but it's not, but it feels more conventional than other things that he's made, but it feels conventional in like you know when you watch a really good movie in the 70s or 80s and there's nothing crazy happening, but just everything is pitched so perfectly and everyone in it is a movie star and like everything looks amazing and not just like that dried out like netification of everything where everything looks flat. Like
It's real cinema.
It feels
Well, I was
like
about
a
to
real
say,
movie.
everybody wants some. Specifically, that movie encapsulates like at least what I imagine, like just from seeing pictures of my dad in college, like like that vibe so perfectly, and it makes it feel so alive. Would you call it like grounded? Because I think that's what about his other movies that make them feel so genuine is like it just feels honest and like real.
Weirdly enough, I think it feels like less grounded. Like there's some genuine like kind of almost like a Coen Brothers like a series of like things unravel kind of idea.
Yeah.
Like that's why it feels a little bit different. But also like that main like the characterization of the main character is like so good. It has this like weirdly uplifting message about and this all sounds so funny that it's a weird uplifting message about like you can change your life for the better and you can become the person you always wanted to be. And that is delivered almost like straight, like almost like the Oppenheimer sense of someone in that movie is like, you should just be yourself. And it doesn't feel like trite because it's within the framework of a movie where like that makes sense as something someone would say to someone. So it's definitely like, I would say like it's the most Coen Brothers movie that Linklater's ever made. But it has that like weird like 70s, 80s swag of like movies of that era, which I just like. I watched Dog Day Afternoon for the first time a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh, this is like a real ass movie.
I love Dog Day Afternoon. Also, could I just say, I love that moment in Oppenheimer where he's like, I know exactly what you're talking about, where that character is like, Oppie, you just gotta be yourself. And then Christopher Nolan treats it like a fucking Batman mask where he picks up the hat. And it's like, I was like, yes, he picked up the hat. And I'm like, what am I rooting for here? I saw somebody else say something similar even about Brendan Fraser and Killers of the Flower Moon, where he was like playing a Coen Brothers character in a Scorsese movie. This felt very like Coen Brothers-esque as well. Like I've heard similar things about Hitman, but I don't know. I haven't seen it yet myself. Do you feel like Richard Linklater was going for a Coen Brothers type thing with it?
Yeah, I have no idea. It was like it was the film that closed the festival. It's the final screening. And I like hadn't done any reading on it. Like I kind of got my ticket like last minute because I didn't get tickets to absolutely everything I wanted to see just because like I also have like a day job and I was like I'm gonna run out of steam to watch everything. But this was one where I had seen good reviews, but I like knew nothing about like most of these movies. Apart from Killers of the Flower Moon, I had not even seen a trailer for most of these because I was trying to like stay unspoiled. Obviously, Killers of the Flower Moon, the trailer is like so good.
It's so good.
It's so good.
We discussed the wolves in this picture line.
Yeah, after you saw it, I texted you, is that like used in an iconic context? And you said no, and I was disappointed. And then I saw it and I was like, okay, I get it more. I saw somebody say that scene where he's like, where he reads from the book is the best time to get up and pee during the movie. And like, I don't know. I don't have an opinion on that. I personally held it, but I don't know. If you're somebody who has a weak bladder, maybe you go pee in the first like 20 minutes.
I did run out during Oppenheimer for a second, which is why I'm thinking maybe I missed the.
You might have missed the shit in his hat line.
I missed one, like I was out for less than a minute. I don't know. I honestly I don't remember where it was in the movie though. But
quick tangent. What's the longest you've ever had to leave a movie for? Like, have you ever had a crisis when you've been seeing a movie?
I had to skip actually the second half of Barbie when I saw it because I was supposed to be.
Did it gone work?
Huh?
Did it gone work?
Like it was. I saw it again, but it was. I saw the I literally counted because I think it was like an hour and a half. So I stayed for 45 minutes, and then I was supposed to be seeing it again. I saw it with my family, and then I was seeing my girlfriend the next day. So I was like, I don't want to. I'll see half with you guys. I'll see like the full thing with my girlfriend the next day. It was a whole thing, but it ended up working out. But I did walk out like through halfway, and I felt really bad about it because I've never walked out of a movie before. But
They were probably like, "Wow, that
I know. I was like, of all
menace probably
movies, it was
hated the
Barbie.
movie."
Like, no, it's great. I just
He
can't,
probably
like-
thought it was too woke.
I know. I was like, no. It's not that.
I had an incident a couple of years ago when I was seeing The Green Knight. I got 2 phone calls in a row where I was like, okay, I guess I have to take this. My then girlfriend locked herself out of our apartment. I didn't really like The Green Knight, so it was okay with me. But Molly, what about you? Have you ever had an in-theater crisis?
Mine is, I didn't leave, but I wanted to leave the whole time, which was when I saw Nocturnal Animals.
Oh, God, fair enough.
I was with my boyfriend at the time, and I kept like, I hate this. I want to go.
I don't blame you. That's the
Maybe
most...
Jake Gyllenhaal.
No,
Never-
it's directed by fucking Tom Ford.
Tom Ford. Wait.
Yes, that one. It's probably the most unpleasant movie I've ever seen. Like it's just this like unnecessary like framing just in service of the most violent and unpleasant narrative device you've ever seen, and just the movie itself sucks. So really not a fan of Nocturnal Animals either. I think it's definitely fair to describe that movie as a crisis.
Yeah, I just kept being like, I really hate this. I want to go.
Just like I'm good. I get it. I wanted to ask you also, Molly, about your film directors and sports theory. You kind of gestured towards that to me, and I don't fully know what it is yet, but it sounds like the perfect thing to discuss on this podcast. So why don't you tell us what that is?
So, it's part of the classic, which is one of the greatest like concepts of all time, which is like one of the things like if you're ever drunk with your friends, you just stop doing like what things and what other things. Like my favorite thing is like New Jersey is Switzerland, Vienna is DC. These are like the same thing to me. And a classic in that genre is like what film directors and which sports, which is an idea I didn't come up with. It's from literally like a stream that I once watched of Will and Nate from A Closer Look, and they were just talking about which directors for which sports. And I cannot remember any of their takes. But every time I saw that like lodged in my brain, I'll just be like watching something and be like, what do I think this is? And I have some bad ones. Like no one agrees with this one, but I think like Denis Villeneuve is kind of like hockey, and it's not just because he's Canadian. I'm like, it's a mixture of the beauty and the elegance of ice, and then the violence, and like the sharp, sudden violence of hockey that like makes it hockey to me. I feel like someone like early career Scorsese, I would be like, that's like basketball, and you're just watching the numbers go up and up and up and up and up, and it's just like you're just like so jazzed to be there. And but I would say like something like Killers of the Flower Moon is more like old school pre-pitch clock baseball. It's like slow, deliberate, and then like suddenly a bunch of stuff happens at once. Where like you can just like a single inning, like you can watch the pitcher completely lose it. Or like a batting order, like go on a hot streak.
Sports are so cinematic that I actually really like that comparison because they have different feels when you watch them. So that's kind of interesting. But like, I don't know. I was gonna say like Michael Bay's football, but like, honestly, I think Christopher Nolan might be more like football.
Think about like, okay, James Cameron is kind of the Olympics, where it's only every so often, and it's a big
that you don't care about.
That's perfect.
and like there's some problematic elements to it. You're like, sure, we should be having the Olympics.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Oh, that's really good.
You mentioned earlier, like not being sure whether baseball would be Martin Scorsese or Steven Spielberg, and I think that's kind of perfect too, because like you were saying, those two were both so quintessential American directors, and in very different ways. Like kind of the go-to story that I think of when I think of like the difference between those two directors is one time Paul Schrader was like teamed up by some studio to work with Steven Spielberg, and they were like working on the script, and Schrader was like, he was trying to write this like fucked up protagonist who's like, about to like kill everybody in the world, and then Steven Spielberg is like, wait a minute, what are you doing? Schrader was like, I don't want the protagonist of this movie to be some American regular, like, everyman who eats all of his meals at, like, McDonald's. And Steven Spielberg said, that's exactly what I do want. And that's
Yeah.
been all of Steven Spielberg's movies since. And I feel like Paul Schrader, he's of course worked with Martin Scorsese so many times. They have so many similar sensibilities. Spielberg really represents that like mainstream. He wants to be the official director of America. And like Martin Scorsese, I don't know. I feel like he has more of a genuine idea of like what. Yeah, I mean, he like knows like what America like truly is, and he has more ideas of like the dark sort of underbelly of it, and he depicts those things in ways that are still fun to watch. So like you're watching protagonists like Henry Hill or Jordan Belfort, who are of course horrible people, and like you're having so much fun watching those movies still. And that's something else that I was going to touch on
The point
with
that people completely miss the point of their characters.
yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
like what one point that I do want to make about Killers of the Flower Moon that I'll probably make again, because I do want to do like a full big like episode on that movie. But it's like,
I mute my laptop.
this isn't a spoiler. But like to me, it's so interesting that 10 years after Wolf of Wall Street, which I'm not interested in having a like depiction versus endorsement argument, but I think that like that's the most like misread movie, at least by people of like our generation. Like I remember seeing a TikTok or Instagram thing once where it was like we asked like 20 kids like what their favorite movie is, and they all just replied Wolf. And it's like, and it's not because this like exposes like the evils of capitalism. It's because you want to watch DiCaprio do coke and like fucking I don't know. Now like having seen Killers of the Flower Moon 10 years later, like there's a very quick moment where like DiCaprio just quickly brushes hands with like the Ku Klux Klan, and I think that that's so intentional to put that in, where it's like, I'm going to smack you over the head with how off these characters are. And like the fact that you're watching Leonardo DiCaprio, who's been in 5 of these Scorsese behemoths over the past 20 years, be coerced into this evil string of American crimes by this character played by Robert De Niro, who is the other half of Martin Scorsese's career. Like, I'm going to get into this more, but I feel like there's something so sinister about that, and it's deployed so beautifully by his direction, just like as always. Like, of course, Martin Scorsese is just a perfect director, but there's something in Killers of the Flower Moon where it feels like everything he's worked to his whole career, and it's like that transformation of gangsters to capitalists is kind of complete with it.
When you were talking, I had a realization, which is that Scorsese and Spielberg are both faithful, but Scorsese is doing the American League, which is evil and you feel bad in your gut, and Spielberg is doing the National League, our heroes.
The feel-good stories with the colorful characters.
That's honestly perfect.
It's
Really
always
funny.
we're like, this is so like the AL playoffs are so
I mean,
bad.
Scorsese is the Yankees, and Spielberg is basically like the I don't know, the Phillies feel right, like the Mets, like any like.
Or like he's the Brooklyn Dodgers. Like he's like
Yeah.
apple pie. Or
What sport is Paul Thomas Anderson? Because I have a theory.
question, and I don't know.
I think it's
PTA
soccer.
is like,
I think it's soccer because it's a very like it's a long, very winding story that culminates in like bang, and then like satisfying little after bit.
I can see that. I always think about like soccer as being like Ken Loach. Like it's very like kitchen sink, like gritty, working class.
Right.
Very small budget, but I think that maybe like it's Premier League versus like MLS. Maybe you can pull them down into the MLS. I would say we talk about yoga. Yoga is obviously wrestling because it's like
Yeah, the spectacle and the fakeness and like.
and also like the obsession with the human body. Like he's clearly like even back in like the older movies. These are like
10 years
not
ago.
that old, but yeah, like
not even.
I'm a big PTA head. I think I've tweeted something to the effect of like I just want to best and thread one guy in my life like each time.
That's like I think at this point I've always been saying like when people ask me like what your favorite movie is, it's hard for me to say anything other than There Will Be Blood, which is like I mean, that was like one of the first times I watched something and was like, oh, this is like cinema. I was like, this is like peak. I mean, The Wolf of Wall Street was like that, but it's very spectacle heavy, whereas like There Will Be Blood has just the perfect blend of like storytelling and character, and like also it helps that it's a good period piece and stuff like that.
It's one of those like movies that truly teaches you what like cinema can do. It's like, oh wait, this is what a movie, like I had that experience watching The Shining. Like I remember I saw that movie for the first time and I was like, this is what I want to do with my life.
Did we watch that together for the first time?
No. I watched it. I was like one like summer I was home from school. I just watched it at home.
Yeah, that's a really good movie.
Yeah, so it's perfect.
Hot take: The Shining.
The Shining, good movie.
Yeah.
You heard
I
it.
didn't think we were gonna get controversial. I'm not sure how I feel about this. I have not seen There Will Be Blood, and this is like another one of my extended movie bits. I'm saving certain movies for like my future husband.
Ooh.
Because I want to give him the gift of showing me There Will Be Blood.
That's an incredible gift. Whoever your husband is, like shit.
But then don't waste it. You got to be sure.
Don't waste it on some like idiot.
Yeah,
for real.
Yeah.
Man.
There has to fully be like a ring on my finger before I'm like, yeah, you can load up.
You got to have like 6 kids before you even watch that movie. It's that good. Like you got to be sure if that's your plan for There Will Be Blood.
Yeah.
My favorite PTA I think is Inherent Vice. I've just seen that movie like 5 times now, and I just think it's perfect. He's my favorite director. I don't know what sport he would be though.
Molly, who do you think wins the World Series?
Yeah, so I think it is. Well, I want it to be Rangers Phillies, and then I think it would be a 6 game with I think the Phillies winning.
Okay.
But my fear is that it'll be Astros Phillies, and then I'm just like, yeah, Astros are gonna win. I think they're a weaker team than last year, but like every time I see Jordan Alvarez, I go into shock. I think there's an aspect of like the bullpen management, which has been like sub-optimal.
Yeah.
Again, I have nightmares about when they pulled Zach Wheeler last World Series, and I don't feel confident that wouldn't happen again, where there wouldn't be another one of those like weird gut punch moments, which is kind of, I would say, like kind of like the gut punch moment. You know, like in a Coen Brothers or something, where you're like, oh, everything's gonna work out for the characters, and then like something happens, you're like, oh, everyone's dead. Like everyone's going to die. That is how I felt. And I should say,
Rob
like,
Thompson that was his first year. I mean, like he came in as the interim, so like maybe that was maybe he couldn't manage with his gut as much. Maybe he will this year. I'm very big on that.
I saw older games at like 3 a.m. as well.
Yeah.
Like with the time difference.
Oh my God!
The game started at like either midnight or 1 a.m. because the fallback happened in the middle of the World Series, and we fall back a week before the U.S. does.
Yep.
And so it was just like I was watching things like the combined no-hitter at like leaving the bar at 4 a.m. then logging into work at 8.
That's
so. I mean, I have brain damage from that era. So like, don't listen to me about my takes.
In the 2019 ALCS, I was in Italy, and so I remember like we went out. We got back to my friend's apartment because he was like studying abroad there, and then it was literally like 3:07 or something in the morning because they were playing. I was like literally 3 in the morning. We were like, all right, here we go. It's like,
and then it was like the Altuve home run. So it was like the most.
It was. I still remember I was running around on my balcony in like an Airbnb when Didi hit the homer off of Verlander, and I forget what game that was, but in the first inning, it was like, we got to him. This is it. Like, oh my God. But that was good times. That was really late night baseball starts if you're in Europe. It's dedication, so I applaud you. That's
actually one of my favorite tweets of all time. I can't remember the exact phrase, but something like 2 a.m. watching the Raptors play preseason on the Amalfi Coast, which is how I feel most of the time, where I'm like, I shouldn't be doing this. What are we doing here?
This is crazy. My God. Yeah.
One of my favorite tweets is like, I'm going to become an American soccer fan tweeting absolute fucking disgrace at 6 a.m. before anyone should have an opinion on anything.
Dude, when I say that I have walked through New York early in the morning when I've like visited, I have an uncle who lives in New Jersey, so I've been to New York a decent amount. Walking through New York,
Jersey, out of curiosity.
Little Silver. It's in Monmouth County.
Okay, gotcha. It's
like
my girlfriend's, but from Jersey too, so I was curious. But yeah,
I love New Jersey.
Whoa.
I think it's us.
That makes one of us who loves
Yeah.
New Jersey.
I love New Jersey.
Awful.
Keep that in. Keep that in.
I will keep that in. I promise.
Fair enough.
But I have walked through
I'll
New York
quote
like
you
9
on
a.m.
it.
and
I love New Jersey. Molly Thomas, 2023.
That's
Non-American.
Yeah.
not American.
Yeah, there we go.
But
The
yeah,
only one
walking
who
through
can
New
think
York at 9 a.m. watching people like watch Formula One in a bar.
Yeah, that's
disgusting.
awful.
Disgusting.
It's really funny. Like, and then if you go to, like any kind of, like if you go downtown, there's all these like delis where there's people from, like all these countries watching soccer that's going on. Like, at any time during the day, there will be people watching soccer on a tiny TV. Like, like good for them. You know what? Again, dedication. Like it takes.
Yeah.
sports.
Yeah. I think it's like that. I think it's like the meme. It's like flooding versus harassment.
Yeah.
Me, a non-American watching American sports from London is flooding. Americans watching British sports or like European sports, that's full on harassment. It's disgusting to me.
It is.
So
It's not for you.
That's why I don't watch any
What
soccer.
do you mean you're a
It's not for
Liverpool
me.
fan? Like, no, you're not. Point to it on a map, motherfucker. Name 5 guys.
See, like that's how I felt when like they were talking about putting the fucking Super Bowl in England. That's like, no,
terrible.
we created football. Nobody else wants to play it.
Yep.
We call it the World Championship, despite the fact that it's only our country. Molly likes
And
football.
Canada is in the World Series. Well, could be.
Yeah.
because
Well,
we're
Yeah.
good.
We give you the London games already that we wake up for at 9:30 to see.
Yeah.
So I don't
Well,
know.
They're just the worst.
Yeah, we always give you like the Jaguars first, and like they're actually good now, so they'll probably stop giving you the
Exactly.
Jaguars, and they'll replace it with like Carolina or something.
They're not gonna put the. I don't think they can put a team there. I just don't think it can be done. That's a whole other conversation. if
That
we
is a
wanna have
different
it.
conversation. I was going to talk about expanding MLB, even
Yeah.
like that could maybe work. I don't know,
Yeah,
but we'll talk about that next time you're on.
no, another time. Yeah, Molly, come back on. We'll talk about
Yeah.
the international potential of baseball and football. That'd be kind of fun, actually.
Molly, before we let you go, I've got 2 more questions for you. One, are you ready for 7 hours of commercial-free football?
Yes, we literally like planned this so that we could go and watch Red Sox.
Yeah.
There you go. The early and the late window ends around like midnight?
Yeah.
It has to, right? That's kind of nice. It's a whole afternoon. Like you can just hang out. Like you have a morning. Man, here it's.
I've never in my life had Sunday scaries because my Sunday evenings are like generally like baseball. Like this is why I think like baseball and the NFL are the 2 things I've like watched the most is because
Yeah.
the games are on at really good times.
Right.
I'm not watching hockey ever. I'm not watching basketball ever. I'm watching highlights.
I'm not
It's
watching
not
hockey
amazing.
ever either.
If there was a West Coast game, I can't even imagine. I mean, a West Coast basketball game starts at like 10:30 here, like on the East Coast. So I mean, that would be what 3:30 in the morning. Like,
Yeah,
it's-
the Lakers would play at like 4 a.m.
that's crazy.
And then
Yeah.
my other question, do you know who Stavros Halkias is?
Oh my god!
Because I
Why?
don't. I'm just curious. I think that's going to do it here for this episode. Molly, thank you
Leave it
so
with
much
that.
for joining us. You've been an incredible guest. We had a great time. Good luck with Game 6 and possibly Game 7. I hope the
Go
Phillies win the
Phillies.
World
I'm rooting for you
Series.
guys, too.
Where can the people find you?
So yeah, I'm on Twitter at Angel in Real Time, which is a song/album. And yeah, I have like tens of followers, so feel free to hop on that train.
All right. Well, that'll do it for us. We've taken up enough of your time. We're going to go watch football. Game 6 of the ALCS is tonight. We look forward to that. Brody and I will see you all next week.
Thank you.